Hey, everybody. I am joined right now by a name you're familiar with from his work from WCW, WWE. I have Chuck Palumbo here. We're going to be talking about his work as a singles wrestler, tag team wrestler, some more memorable moments from his career, find out what he's been up to. Uh, since I know you retired a few years ago, we'll be talking about what you have been up to since then. How are you doing today?
I'm doing fantastic. How are you?
Very good.
Good.
Enjoying the nice weather. It's finally getting warm enough to
Where
enjoy
where,
out.
where are you located?
Philadelphia suburbs.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah, so it's finally opening the windows and enjoying
Yeah.
it before it gets terribly hot.
I get it. I get it.
uh, so I kind of guess. Well, first I'll ask, what have you been up to lately? I know, I believe you told Bill Apter a few years ago that you retired from the ring and you had launched some outside projects related to your custom cycle business. So, what have you been up to? What brings you back, kind of, to the wrestling universe?
So I'm right now. I'm basically what I've been doing is so after wrestling, I did a few television shows for Discovery Channel. Some people may or may not know I've been building cars and motorcycles my whole life, and it was a transition I was going to make when I got out of the wrestling business, and I did. And then ended up doing some more TV with Discovery Channel for a few years, a couple different shows, a worldwide show, and then a national show. Lords of the Car Hordes and Rusted Development. Had a great time on those shows, but I wanted to start kind of just doing my own thing and show people kind of what I do day to day. And I thought YouTube would be a great platform for it. We're doing we can call it a show, or you can just call it a little video blog or whatever you want. But basically, I just I show people what I do day to day, which is restore homes, restore cars, build motorcycles. I like to work with my hands. I grew up in the trades, so I have a lot of irons in the fire to say. I dabble with real estate, stuff like that. So yeah, I'm just showing people what we do day to day. It's very raw, and if I can inspire a few people to maybe try a few of these things, or if people just want to check it out, and I'm just very fortunate that people are interested in it. It's small. We're hoping to get more subscribers as we go along. The show is called Chuck of All Trades. Um, but yeah, we're building viewership little by little, and then we'll see where it goes. But right now, it's just really about sharing what we do.
Yeah, and if anybody listening to this wants to check it out, it's very easy to find. If you search Chuck of All Trades on YouTube, it's the first result that comes up. The picture that comes up is a beautiful little puppy, so it's
That's my
very
puppy.
inviting to click on.
That's my pit bull. His name's Tigger. He's he's big. He's a big old boy now. But yeah, thank you.
Yeah, so if you guys want to check that out, it's very easy to find. And as you mentioned, you've been doing it your whole life. It translated to something on screen, which I don't know if people like. I know you did an interview where you said, like, no, this isn't just something I'm doing on TV. I've always been interested in it. You played I guess a mechanic gimmick. It wasn't exactly the biker yet, but
Yeah.
We saw glimpses of it after Billy and Chuck.
Yeah.
Can you just talk about the transition from what really was like a high profile, memorable to some, infamous to others angle with Billy and Rico, and then not to gloss over it, but you also were in the FBI revival too. So
Yeah.
can you talk about the transition from Billy and Chuck, kind of how that ended, and then how you ended up in the FBI?
Yeah. Well, the Billy and Chuck character was fantastic. We had a blast. We had so much fun with that character. Those characters could have went on forever, and it took Rico, Billy, and myself, that dynamic to make it work, right? But it worked, and we had fun. The people genuinely saw that we were having fun, and they got behind it. And it was a very cutting edge uh, angle at the time. So yeah, that was high profile. But that was designed for ratings week, cable television ratings week. So that ceremony
Mhm.
or quote unquote wedding, that was the night of ratings week, and it was the highest rated show. Shortly disbanded after that for a couple of reasons. That it was designed for that, but number two, Billy had gotten hurt, and now here I am on my own. What am I going to do next? So Vince had asked me what I wanted to do next, and asked a little bit about my background, and I thought about revamping the FBI, and I thought it was a great idea and easy to do because I grew up in New England, Providence, and suburbs of Providence, similar to like Philadelphia and stuff like that, with Italian Americans and stuff like that, and that style of gimmick. So yeah, we did that. We're heels. We got a good crowd response. Um, Again, I thought that character as a group could have went further too, but for whatever reason, they didn't continue to push it. We had some great angles with Lesnar, Taker, Guerreros, stuff like that. So yeah, that worked. And then I left the company, and then I went to Japan and Mexico, and had a great time working over there, those places. And then I came back in '06, and then I sat for a while, and then Vince had asked me what I wanted to do. I showed him this this motorcycle build I had just finished. I was in a magazine. I think I showed him, and he said, "Oh, how come we're not doing this?" I'm not sure. How come we're not? So started to develop that, and then started doing that. And it was basically just an extension. The image was an extension of what I did. Um, and on the business side of things, it was a 2-year contract, and I knew that was probably my last contract. So I was trying to make that transition too. So it was like a pitch for a character, but it was also a pitch to promote what I was going to be doing when I left the company.
Mhm. Now,
So I was fortunate enough to get that opportunity.
before I want to talk a little bit more about that, but the FBI gimmick, was there ever any, you said it was very easy to get into, but was there any ever resistance on your part just because you knew it was coming from ECW and it was so revered in its time? Was there any hesitation as far as uh, how people remembered that gimmick and you stepping into it, because it
Right.
wasn't, you weren't the original person that was in
Right.
it?
Actually, no, not at all. I felt fortunate enough to be able to take on that role. They had some talented guys who had done it in the past. So I think I just felt fortunate to be able to get that opportunity to do that role. It was going to be a different FBI with us, obviously, different characters, different dynamic, Johnny, myself, and Nuns. But no, and we did it, and you probably, as a fan, if you watch this, you can see the difference, right, in the two different stables of the FBI. But no, we had fun. We had fun.
And I want to get back to custom Chucky. It was what it was called for a while,
Yeah.
but the timing of that was interesting because
Yeah.
you had the Undertaker, who was the American Badass for a while, and then
Yeah.
obviously this comes from a very real place with you, but was there any, maybe not hesitation, but was there any like careful planning that it wasn't stepping on that just because it came so close? Because
Right.
you debuted in, I believe it was the summer of 2004, and he had just finished that character up. I think it was like January of the same year. So
Yeah.
was there any meeting of the minds to make sure that you were still doing your own thing, and like you said, giving a glimpse of what you were doing after wrestling and not having it encroach on the American Badass, like that
Right.
part of his character?
Yeah. That's a super good question. There was no planning, to be blunt. At that time, I want to say that I didn't even tell anybody, management or anything, that I was going to start doing that.
Mhm.
I'll be honest with you. I think I just threw some clothes on and went out there and started to do it. I mean, I'm just being honest.
Yeah.
And in the business, a lot of times there's not a lot of planning, as you probably know. Things will happen at the spur of the moment. Some guy will come up with an idea, and someone's like, "Oh, I like that. Let's do it." And sometimes it works, and sometimes it doesn't. But there was no push behind it. I think it was as simple as me going out there and just trying. Um, no push, no talk of storyline, nothing like that. And as you know, soon I was gone soon after that.
Yeah. Well, I mean, the reason I ask is because you like, especially nowadays, you hear how carefully planned everything is, and so has their own gimmick. And I think there was, it might be an unconfirmed story, but there was something about like somebody couldn't wear green because that was DX colors. And, like going to somebody like The Undertaker, like, motorcycles was his thing for a couple of years. So it's kind of interesting to, I just was always curious about that. I love I loved I love that. I don't want to call it a gimmick because it was very true to life for you, but I loved that era for you because it was grounded in a time where we were still in between like kayfabe and like crazy stuff. And I feel like that whole era of Raw and SmackDown is very underappreciated.
Yeah. Yeah, it's interesting because honestly, Taker in real life, he's not really a biker.
Mm.
He had a few motorcycles, but he didn't turn wrenches. He wasn't really in, that was a gimmick for him, and yeah, you're right. So for me to do it, it was kind of real for me. And unfortunately, I guess some fans may say, well, it's like a knockoff of what Taker was doing, right? Some fans might feel that, he's just copying, which it wasn't. It was just really a matter of Vince and I talking. He's a motorcycle guy. I'm a motorcycle guy. Talking about this and doing it. Mm. And I remember asking him, well, what do you think, what Taker's going to think about it or whatever? And he basically said, no, that's over with. That was, let's go try it.
Yeah. I mean, I always took I took it as being genuine, but you also have to think that the West Coast Choppers like shows were catching on around that time. So not only is it true to life to you, but it's pulling from real life events, pop culture, like trying to, I guess in a way, capture the interest of some of the casual fans or outside fans. And I mean, I wish it would have went on longer, but I enjoyed it.
It's what you just said is so true, and no one's ever said that. I've always thought that. You talk about the pop culture and the trends at that time, and that's one of the main reasons why I wanted to do it at that time. That was it right there. Yeah. You had the Jesse Jameses doing their thing. Those shows were just starting to kick off. The Chopper Building and the Build-Offs and all those shows that were very successful, right? Very highly rated shows. That Orange County Chopper show, although, those guys were, it was a little crazy. That show went on for several seasons, and those guys made a lot of money. It was very, very successful. And that's what I was trying to bridge that gap. I was trying to bridge that gap and make that work. And I don't know, unfortunately, a lot of the people behind the scenes, they didn't understand that. They knew wrestling, and it's not their fault, but I was trying to bridge that gap. And ironically enough, years later, I go do a show on Discovery Channel, right?
Right.
And it works.
Yeah.
And it works. So, but timing's everything, right? Timing's everything.
Yeah. So I want to jump back a little bit. I really became a fan of yours because of your work in WCW. I think a lot of fans know your name because of that. You were in the Natural Born Thrillers. You came up through the power plant, and as much crap as the death of WCW gets and all that, that final year, and people want to look back on it with negativity. I feel like, that was a really fun time and a real attempt to build new guys through that stable. Like, I obviously wish things ended differently, but I feel like that group of guys was really fun to watch. You had Sean Stasiak, yourself, Sean O'Hare, Mark Jindrak. Now he's Marco Corleone. But one of the things I always thought was really unique was the fact that you and Sean Stasiak started teaming, and then you guys switched on air. And I like maybe it happened more in the territory days, but what was that like? Like finding out, like you're teaming with this guy, and you're so really new to your career, and then no, we're gonna switch you. It was you and Sean O'Hare. What was that like? Just trying to adjust.
You know, it was typical of the time. It was a fly by the seat of your pants time. So honestly, we didn't care. We were having we were learning on TV. We were young, energetic, and so excited to be there. You're talking about now. You're talking about guys from the power plant who had to fight their way to get into the power plant and fight their way to get out of it onto TV. We're not talking about the Goldbergs and those guys who were handed contracts and never really paid their dues. Not a knock on those guys, but those guys came in a different way, very successful. And it's about business, and those guys are all great guys. But you're talking about guys who struggled to get their way into a business that didn't want us. Because in that time, before social media and the internet and the digital world, you had to fight your way to get into the business that was closed, unless you were second generation or knew someone or a family friend or had worked the independents for years paying your dues. You didn't just come in the business. So we basically came in on the fast track through the power plant. I respected all those guys because their work ethic was incredible. We all shared the same struggles. We all faced the same adversity. So to get to that point where we're on TV working with the likes of a Kevin Nash or a top guy like that, getting a push, we didn't care. We were just happy to be out there. We were, and we loved it. That was such an incredible time to be in the business. And it's sad that a lot of the people knock that time in the business, but that was a time in the business that'll never happen again. The transition, all that's a special time. That was real. That transition was real.
Yeah. And if you think about it, just like I named a few of the guys that you worked with, but I feel like some fans now, like the people that they're watching, they're like, oh yeah, he was on WCW. Like I know AJ Styles was one of them. And I remember for a few years, I was like, wait, what? And it was, he was in Air Raid for like very early on in his career. So I feel like people should, if not for watching it back for nostalgic purposes and just appreciating that era, I think they should go back and see who was actually around back then to try to just see where people came from.
Absolutely. And the style, if you think about the style, the speed came up, the athleticism stepped up. It was actually, I believe that group was ahead of its time. I think if we, could have, would have, should have, but can you imagine if we had the digital world or social media behind that young stable at that time?
Mm-hmm.
So, because basically we were a taste of what you were going to get. No one knew this. We didn't know this. We're talking about it now, obviously. But we were really a taste of what they have now, if you think about it.
Yeah, right? I mean, very much so. They were introducing I believe the cruiserweight tag team titles right before that. You have a lot of, you guys didn't really work one style. It was very much, it was athletic, but obviously you use your size. Again, like I would go back, like you have WWE Network internationally. Now it's Peacock. Like go find some stuff, whether it's for the first time or if you haven't watched it before. I've really enjoyed speaking with you today. I will close with this. If I can put you on the spot, favorite WCW match and favorite WWF match, or if you want to pick a favorite moment from either one of those, but maybe you have a match that, kind of tie things up. Maybe it's a match that they can go check out, like one of the ones we've just been talking about.
Sure. Yeah, so matches as far as favorites, I never really got into favorites. Memorable matches. Fortunate enough with Billy and Chuck to work with Hulk Hogan, with Edge, Boston Garden tag team. I think we dropped the titles to them. The fact that I was working with Hulk Hogan, I come from a very a middle class family, humble beginnings. So to get to be in the ring on TV with Hulk Hogan, yeah, where I come from, that's a big deal. So that's one of them. Just anything to do with the Thrillers was fantastic. Working with the likes of Kevin Nash and those guys, any of that era was great. Memorable matches, honestly, WWF. I mean, I enjoyed working with Undertaker, Brock Lesnar. Brock Lesnar and I had a stiff match one night that's on TV. If you get a chance, check that one out. It was a singles match against me with Brock Lesnar. I want to say I was transitioning. I don't know whereabouts I was in my career. I had finished the Billy and Chuck thing, but I remember it was a really physical match. And as far as match wise, I enjoyed that. I'm sorry I can't answer your question better. I just not one of those guys who remembers my matches. It's more about I remember the camaraderie between all the guys and the lifestyle and the challenges that were in front of us and the bonding. That's the stuff I remember.
There's no wrong answer. I try to ask everybody that just because I'm curious as to what kind of response I get. I mean, I've been doing this for, a little over a year or so, and I've gotten a match, the same match, two different people picked. That's only happened once. And then, you get some people that are like, oh yeah, I remember the crowd at this event, or, and I'll ask for a match and they say, no, it was more about this moment than an actual match. So it's just, I just like looking back and seeing what you appreciate most about your career, no matter what it is. And again, thanks very much for your time today. If you want to follow Chuck, go ahead and check out Chuck of All Trades on YouTube. Thanks very much for your time today. I really appreciate getting to catch up with you.
You're very welcome. Thank you. I appreciate it. It was fun. Right.